Thank you so much for coming today. First of all, if anyone needs to connect, it's apparently luxury collection public, which you won't need your laptops on. I'm going to ask that children silence your phones. Parents, I'm quite happy because you've got work and so on and probably more responsible. And if anyone's got AirPods in, just out of courtesy, please remove them. I would like you to be listening to me. Now, hands up, those of you who got out of bed with a smile and said, "Thanks so much for booking me in here." Thank you, parents. Yes, I know. I thought that too. I got out of bed and went, "Yay, can't wait." No. And I understand it's your first day of holidays and your parents have done you this massive favour. They've booked you in to an event you don't want to be at. However, you're here, so we're going to make the best of it. I've got one thanks I need to make, so if you don't all hate on me for organising this event, you can all hate on Karen. So Karen came to this event to a mum's breakfast a week ago, I think it was, wasn't it? And very kindly said, "Let's do this for the children as well." So it's her fault, not mine. There you go. Right, so thank you so much, Karen, for enabling this to happen, and I hope that we do have fun today. Okay? Learning is fun. Learning is something that it's about engaging, it's about being active, and it's about having fun. So, what we're going to start by doing is, who wants to be here? Who wants to learn faster? Brilliant. We all want to learn faster, and that's why we're here. So, stand up. Go on, stand up, stand up. It's active participation. Right, shake your hands out. Shake, 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 shake. Come on, we're going to learn faster. Shake, 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 shake. Lots of shaking, okay? Active bodies mean active minds, so keep shaking. Now, clench your fist and put it on your chin. Where's your chin, everyone? Listen to instructions. Okay, so sit yourselves down. We have to listen and follow instructions. Right. For those of you who are in year 11, you're already at high stress. You have about 16 weeks and it's all going to be over. Not that that's supposed to scare you anymore, but in 16 weeks you'll probably have done your last exam and you'll be on your long holidays. If you're in year 10, you have about 16 weeks until you've finished your first year of your exam content. Does anyone feel ready right now to say, "Yeah, I've got these GCSEs nailed"? You're allowed to put your hands in the air, I don't mind. Okay. The reason being is that they're quite daunting. So GCSEs are definitely, they're kind of like a mountain to climb to some extent. So we've got about, if we look at revising year 10 content, if we have about 16 weeks left, and we take into account that most you do between 8 and 9 subjects, the reality is you have 1.7 hours per topic left to revise before your exams this year. So each topic you can now dedicate 1.5 hours to. Is that scary? Okay. It's not the end of the world, it's not quite as bad as it feels, and I'm going to show you some ways to learn faster and harder as we go ahead. So, as I say, it feels like we've got a mountain to climb, but if we want to climb a mountain, and we want to make things happen, the only way to do that is to actually walk. Every step that you take forward is a step further towards achieving your goal. We can stand at the bottom of this mountain and we can look at it and go, "I can't." And we can go back to that famous saying that says, if you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right. Now think about that for a moment. If I say I can do something, I can 100% do it. You can all do your GCSEs because GCSEs have been written to be passed. They're not written to fail you. They're written for you to show your knowledge and to pass them. So if I think I can, or I think I can't, you're true, but you're right both ways. If you sit at home and say, "I can't do this," you're not going to do it. So you're absolutely right. You can't do it. But you can. It's all in here. It's 100% within you to pass your GCSEs. So, it might feel daunting, but let's get going. And I basically compared GCSEs to running a marathon. So, Anyone here, if I wanted to run a marathon tomorrow, does anyone think I can do that? I love you already, thank you. The chances of me being able to run a marathon are actually very remote, okay? Why could I not run a marathon tomorrow? Why do you think I couldn't just go to the starting line tomorrow? Yeah. There's no way, I definitely haven't trained, okay? No, you're right, I haven't trained and I haven't got the right equipment. So if I turned up at the start line of the marathon, I might be able to walk 21 kilometres or however long the marathon is. How long is it? Around 48 kilometres, is it? However, I might be able to walk it, but could I run it? No. And when I get to the end, am I going to be disappointed in myself because I didn't put my best into it? If you got trained for a marathon, and you trained really hard, and you came out with a really disappointing time, does that make you disappointed, or are you like, no, I completed it, doesn't matter? Does anyone do any sports, or am I talking to the non-converted? You can talk to me, okay? I don't mind. Yes. Brilliant. So your exams are the same. If you don't train your exams, you're going to come out disappointed. When you do your exams, when you run a marathon, your parents might stand on the sideline, they might clap their hands, and they might say, come on, you can got this, let's go faster, come on, here's a sandwich, here's a drink. But they're not doing the running. You're doing the running. And your exams are the same. Your parents might give you cake or chocolate or whatever it is you need to get you through your revision, bring you to these events when you don't want to come. But what they're not doing is they are not sitting those exams for you. You are the only person who's going to sit in that exam hall and write those papers. So what that means is you have to do the training. And the more training you do, the faster you run, the better your score, the better your grade. There is 1 mark between each grade. There is 1 mark difference between a D and a C, or between a 6 and a 7. There's 1 mark difference between an A star or a 9 and an 8. 1 mark. So if you trained that extra 20 minutes, you're likely to find that 1 mark. Exams are meant to be passed. They are meant to show how amazing you are, but only if you work for them. If you don't work for them, why would they show you're amazing? Because you haven't tried. It's all about putting the hard work in. I'm going to show you how to do that. So, just a quick graph. I'm thinking you open the box in front of you. It might be in there. I did put some smaller stuff in there. If it's not, don't worry, it's not important. So, quite simply, if we start on this line here, this is where we are now. Okay, we have a choice. We can go up to be good or amazing, or we can become not so good and we can maybe just not quite get to where we want to be. If we train, so if we do the equivalent of 30 minutes a day extra work, 30 minutes is nothing, it's the time it took you to argue with your mum about coming here today, it's the time it takes you to argue with your mum about not tidying your room or not taking your clothes down to the laundry. 30 minutes is nothing. If you do 30 minutes extra a day for 5 days, that's 2.5 hours of revision a week. If you take that until the end of your exams, that's an extra 40 hours training you've done by the time you do your exams at the end. Remember, we've got 16 weeks left, so 16 weeks, that's 40 hours. All right? So 40 hours is massive. That's the content of learning 3 complete subjects from scratch. If you really want to dig in, and you do an hour a day, so if you do an hour a day, you're going to do 5 hours a week, or 80 hours extra training. So think about 80 hours extra training in terms of running a marathon. How much faster do you think that would make you? That's a lot of training, isn't it? That's a lot of training for your exams. That's a lot of extra work. And if you want to reach that super goal and you want to be super amazing, 2 hours a day. Now, you're not going to do 2 hours a day when you're in school, but when you're on holiday, 2 hours a day is nothing. Okay, that's the time we're going to sit here and talk about you doing brilliant stuff. 2 hours is nothing. And 2 hours a day is 10 hours a week. That's 160 hours of training towards your exams in the next 16 weeks. That's life-changing, okay? That's grade-changing beyond imagination. But there's a reason for doing that. It's that we can sit at home and we can say, oh, I'm just going to do another 20 minutes on the Xbox with my friends and then I'm going to work. Or I'm just going to pop onto, I don't know, Snapchat or whatever it is you guys use these days. But once you've gone down that rabbit hole, you'll be 40 minutes on Snapchat. That is serious amounts of learning time that you're not using. So what we want to do is we want to rethink it, do the work, and use the nice things to reward yourself for doing it. So do your 30 minutes, and then go on Snapchat. Do your 30 minutes, and then go on Xbox or PlayStation or whatever it is you're going to do. But do the work first, because right now, that's the important part of your training. Okay, so it all feels a little bit out of control. But life is generally out of control. There's not a parent in this room who doesn't at one point feel like something's out of control in their lives. Everything, there's always stuff that you can't have any control over. But what you can control, you can control really well. So, things I can control in the centre. So basically, you can control what you learn. That's not out of your control, that's in your control. That's what you can do to make sure that success is okay. Now, when you take control of your learning, everything seems very much better. When you let that out of your control, i.e. you don't take control, you don't organise it, everything goes to pot. So the very core of what you need to do is to take control of your learning. So I know that I'm going to learn simultaneous equations or cells or whatever it is, I know that now. That's the core of your learning. That's what I have control over, what I can do. Things that we have slightly less control over, but we can influence, are things like the homework we get, things like, I don't know, revision test topics. We have a bit of control over. So we might be given by a teacher, they might say, go and learn about photosynthesis. We can control what we learn, but what we can't control is the final question that will appear on paper. But if we've learnt it, if we've used our control, then absolutely, we're going to be okay. We're going to show you in a minute that controlling is about also, if you know what's expected of you, and I'm going to show you where you find that in a minute, you can kind of expand your area of control and make it slightly more manageable. And then we've got all the things that are out of our control. So the things out of control is what's going to actually be on the exam paper. What things that people do to you, or things that, extra homework, holidays, sickness, they're out of your control. We can't do anything with those. But a lot of that ring, we can actually influence, we can make it okay. So, how do we tackle this daunting? Well, to pass an exam, there's only two things you need to know. And to pass an exam, you basically know how to revise. So, and the other one is how to write exam answers. So, if we know how to learn, we know how to revise, and then we know how to apply that information the way the examiner wants it, we can't go wrong. It's two things. It's not as massive as you think it is. Revise and how to write papers. I know those, everything should be okay. Okay? It's not as big a deal as we think it is. Two things. So pass my GCSEs, two things. Okay. So, the first one, know what to learn. How many of you remember on your first day in your first subject getting a specification from the exam board that said, this is what I'm going to be tested on? Did any teacher ever give you a list of everything you had to study? Well done. Anyone else? There's only one person. Well done. Yes? So your teacher said to you, you're going to do Excel, GCSE, English, and you're going to study these three books. Yeah? Okay, so we know what we have to learn. We know exactly what we have to learn. So the problem is that when I was in school, and it wasn't, as my children will tell you, we weren't writing on slates with chalk. We did actually have textbooks, copybooks. But when we learned, we used to have one book. It was just literally one book that we kind of, at the start of exams, season, we would open the book and we'd work our way to the back and say, this is what I need to know. You guys live in this multi-faceted technological age where you've got scrumpled up bits of paper at the bottom of your school bags. You've got a folder with some information in, you've got a copybook with some information in, you've got a textbook that you've probably not opened yet, but is under your bed somewhere, and you've also got information online. Is that a rough assumption of where we're at with our learning? More scrambled up in the bottom of the bag than needs to be, probably. Look at the boys over there, boys tend to us. Having got 3 boys and 1 girl, I know that boys have scrambled bits of paper everywhere. And come exams, it's like a lifetime job of ironing the paper so I can actually read it in order for them to revise. Girls tend to have pretty paper, lots of post-its on it. Probably not in the right order, but it will be pretty. Okay, so you don't have a journey of learning. So in order to get control of your learning, to go to that inner circle, you need to organise all these various sort of stories and journeys of learning into one route. And the only way that you can do that is by going to your exam board specifications. Now, if you've got them, brilliant. If you haven't got them, they're all here, they're listed in your books, in the books I've given you. Go, if you know you're doing Edexcel GCSE biology, go to the Edexcel GCSE Combined Science Biology specification and print it off. It's as simple as that is what the exam board has asked you to learn. The secret of the exam boards is they don't test you on anything that's not in the specification. So if it's in the specification, they will test you on it. If it's not in the specification, they won't test you on it. It's as simple as that. So if you have those downloaded for each of your subjects, you're not wasting time trying to work out what to learn or where to find what to learn or learning the wrong thing because you're learning what you've been told to learn. Okay, so if I go into, and again, this is in your books because I knew it was going to be small on the screen. So if you, for instance, business specification, if you click on the specification, you'll see it looks like this and it says download. Very simple, you click the download button and it downloads all of the specifications. So you can see in business, anyone doing business? Anyone doing Edexcel business? No, you're doing Cambridge probably, if you're doing NAS. NAS is Cambridge. Anyone know which board you're doing? No? Okay, that makes you feel very non-confident. Makes that even a word. Okay. So, you need to know which exam board you're doing. You're going to be doing AQA, Edexcel, Cambridge, Edexcel, Cambridge, or possibly OCR. Most schools here are Edexcel or AQA. Edexcel is the easy one to learn because the criteria is very, very clear. AQA is a bit more, it's a bit more clunky. It's not as easy to know what to learn, but if you're doing Edexcel, you're on there. So, this is an Edexcel business specification. There's 2 themes. Theme 1 is all about investigating small businesses. And you can see it's got, near the top, it's got 5 criteria. And the 5 criteria are broken out. So we can see the dynamic nature of business, and new businesses come about because of changes in technology, changes in what consumers want, and products and services becoming obsolete. When you get your exam paper, it will, without doubt, give you a multiple choice question that says, which of these is not a reason why businesses come about? And it will list those 3 and 1 that isn't. And all you do is tick it because you've gone to your exam specification and you knew what to learn. So it's really easy, an easy mark, it's an easy win. You can't go wrong if you've learned the exam specification. Now, the other thing that they do within the exam specification is they give you command words. So the specification is the what to learn, and the command words are how do we apply that. So you'll see that define simply means define the term. Explain, give a statement of fact with 2 further discussion points. So your appeal paragraphs that you've learned to do since year 7 that you actually don't know why you're doing and you have to write what you do in that. So you peel, sweaty, petal, peel. Okay. You have for years been told by the teachers, do a peel paragraph. This is not a peel paragraph. You all look and go, I don't know what you want, I have no idea. Basically, the easy way to remember a peel paragraph is you write a statement and you go, so what? So what does that mean? You write that down, and then you go, so what? What does that mean? And then you've done a peel paragraph. It's really that simple. But your explain is where you're getting, this is what they're training you to do. This is where you kind of got that cross-curricular stuff, that peel paragraphs are really important for your learning in terms of doing your GCSEs. Every every exam specification has got a very slightly different taxonomy of words. So just go to the exam specification. They are the same meaning, but you'll find there's different ones. So for instance, in biology, as an example, you might have draw, you might have label. So there's just a few different ones for each subject. So go to the correct subject taxonomy of words. They are super, super important, because if you don't get that right, you won't get the mark. And I'll explain that in a minute when we examine this report. So if we go to the next page, you'll also get all the formulas, and it also tells you whether the formula is given in your exam paper or you have to learn it. Now, particularly in maths, it's really handy that you've just got those 2 great pages of formulas. They're all together, and you just go look and go, right, I need to know these, I need to learn these. So go to your specification. Your specification is the golden route to knowing what you have to learn and how just basically where you are within your learning. So we're going to go on a little bit further, and we're going to look at the specification in more detail. So what we can see is, so this one is biology, and we will do biology probably at Excel. Yeah, I've got the right syllabus for you. So if you look at biology, you'll see that paper 1 has, and one thing that you'll notice from here, it assesses core content. So paper 1 will also include subjects for paper 2. And it tells you that very clearly on the specification. So don't think I'm going to save on paper 2, because paper 1 is usually the first few weeks of your exams, and paper 2 is the last few weeks of your exams. Don't save all your paper 2 learning until the end, because you might get questions on it in paper 1. And just be very aware of that. Okay, and it can be any topic from the course specification. But again, you can see the content summary within paper 1 tells you what it's going to be, and it tells you what the assessment will be, what format that will take. And sometimes, you know, when you just get really nervous a few days before the exam, it's really nice to kind of go into it and go, okay, I know I've got 5 multiple choice questions, I know I've got 2 long questions, I know I've got, and it tells you how long the exam is going to be. So you're not going into the exam with any doubts, because everything is on that specification. You're not going to phone your friend and go, can you remember? You've got it, you know it, it's there. Okay, so biology content, and I've chosen, I know nothing about biology, okay, so don't anyone ask me anything technical in biology, but it's a really easy one, because it's a subject that everyone studies. So, we can see that these are the 5 areas, and what we're going to take this one out, the nature and variety of living organisms. You'd have done that probably in year 9, you probably recapped in year 10, and don't worry, you'll probably get to it again in year 11, just in case you've forgotten about it. So, if we go on to the next slide, what you can see is that it tells you what you've got to understand. So understand how living organisms share the following characteristics. Now, if I pop to the next slide, you will already have been given this at some point. At some point in a biology lesson somewhere, you've been given this map, Mrs. Gref. Yes? That's your living organism. They move, they respire, whatever. If we go on, I'm hoping that it's saved, or maybe it didn't. Did I put in your packs, sorry, in your packs, I think I dropped some exam questions which showed you, maybe not, I was trying to. I did. So, if you turn to the full page in your exams, you can see examples of exam question on living organisms, and you can see exactly from the exam specification that is what they want you to answer. It is that simple, okay? Super, super simple. If anyone gets that wrong, I will shout at you. I'm not testing you because the answers are above. But just be aware that is how simple it actually is. So if we go on to the next one, 1.2. So you can see 1.1 is basically just know it. 1.2, the exam specification is asking you to describe. So it's really important that you know more than just what it is. You are able to go on further into a slightly deeper description. And your exam will say, it's usually a 3-mark question, describe the features of. Okay? And then you'll be pulling these out. Okay, so all of that's there, it's all in the exam specification. But when you read the exam specification, there's a difference between the word know and describe, or be aware of and describe. Okay, so you can see here very slightly different taxonomy, because I've certainly the word describe, which is give an account of something. You all know that. Describe is the easy command word. Hands up anyone, actually don't, so no, I don't want to embarrass you, but does anyone go into exams sometimes and you see it'll say analyse something, and you kind of go, oh, analyse, is that different to describe, or does that just mean I just write that? What we find with students generally is if it says analyse the difference between animal and plant cells, the chances are you will literally just vomit onto a page everything you know about animal and plant cells. Do you actually look at that word analyse and think, what does that mean? Or do you ignore that first command? Who ignores the first command word and just thinks, subject, let me just write about the subject because I've seen the subject. You won't be alone if you do, okay? Well done. And do you know what? You're going to get the teddy bear at the end for being the person who's actually asked all the questions. Arms done up every time. There's a teddy bear up the grabs. He's called Barry, by the way. Right, okay. So, what you've got to do, what is more important, it's not about knowing the content. It's about knowing what the examiner needs you to know about that content. In what format do you need to write that? So, if we go on to the next page, exam specifications, and you are almost at the point where you can do this. You can waste your summer holidays. You've got dragged here. I can always do another workshop. So you can have it every morning. You can do it at 6 and right before school. What you need to do is you need to go onto the exam specifications, and you need to colour code them. Now I call it ragging, and basically ragging is red. I didn't even study that subject. I have no idea what you're talking about. Amber, I kind of know, and if you really push me, I can probably write one sentence on that, but not with any confidence. And green means I've totally got this. Now, if you do that through your exam specifications, through the stuff you download from the exam board, you know what you don't know. And I know that sounds bizarre, but knowing what you don't know is the biggest part to being able to pass your exams. There is not a dream. I have so many students that come to me and we kind of do lessons together, but hopefully the examiner won't ask me that. And the minute someone says that, I go, that's the first question on the paper, mate. We need to learn that. Do not go into an exam going, I hope that question doesn't come up. Because one, you know you don't know it, and two, if you're going into an exam going, I hope that doesn't come up, the chances are you've had time to at least look over it. So, you want to be in a situation where you're going into an exam going, I really want this question, but actually that comes up. Okay? You need to be going into an exam knowing you know 99.9% of that content. There's a sort of law, I'm not sure whose law it is, Murphy's law or someone's law. Whatever you don't know is the question that will come up. So don't be in that situation, and the fairies and inspiration do not come to you just because you're sat in the exam room. It is not a magic process that when I sit in the exam room, I will know information I don't know. It doesn't happen as much as we want it to. Okay? And the other one is if you're lying in your bed 2 nights before an exam going, well, if I can just get 22%, now if I got 22% in that exam and I get 16% in that exam, yeah, I'll have a 5. That's not, we want to know we've got 90% in each exam. That's it, we're going in to win this. We're not going in with I might just enter the race. We're not entering the race, we're entering this race to win the race. Okay, so there's no going in, you're either in or you're out. If you're in, and you're in because you're doing GCSEs, you're in to win. You're in to get the top mark. You're not in to sit in school and passively just attend school because mum's sending you there. You're in to get the best marks you can possibly get. So don't go in thinking, I might. Go in with, I will, and I can. Because if you think you can, and you think you can't, it's true either way. So you can. You've absolutely got this. Right. So I'm just going to take a little pause before we go into exam marks. On your table, you should all have circles and scissors. Everyone grab circles and scissors. Okay, has everyone found circles and scissors? Everyone found, if mums and dads may pass them over, has everyone got circles? You haven't got scissors, there's some spare scissors floating around. Okay. Lots of discussion about circles and scissors. Has everyone got circles and scissors in front of them? Everyone got? Anyone else need scissors? Okay, let's see if there's scissors floating around here. Circles and scissors, everyone? Everyone got them? Okay, let's have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Hand break, circles and scissors. Okay, great. Anyone got them? If the girls are moving around, making sure you've got what you want. Scissors or a circle? Don't get circles. Let me find anyone got a spare circle. You've got a spare circle, anyone? Anyone got a spare circle? I think I have enough. No? Okay. Don't worry too much. It's not, you're not going to fail your exams. I haven't got a circle, trust me. Okay. Right. Has everyone got? Anyone need highlighters? We might need highlighters in minutes. We need smiley faces. You all got highlighters? Okay. So everyone's got circle and scissors. Brilliant. Has anyone cut out their circle yet? Did I ask you to cut a circle out? Okay, don't worry, it's a sellotape. Anyone got sellotape? There's sellotape somewhere? Anyone need the sellotape? Okay, so if you haven't cut, just put your scissors on the left side of you and put the circle on the right side. And put the sellotape on the left side. Did I ask you to repair the circle? Okay. Really well done, guys, because basically it's one of those little tests that we do. So nobody's told you to cut the circle. Nobody's told you to stick the circle. It's exactly like that in exams. If you're not, it's okay. You lost that one. If you're not told to do something in the exam, don't do it. There's no point. You're not asked to do it. So follow the instructions. So congratulations to the ones who didn't cut. Can you all put the scissors down on your left-hand side so that nobody cuts anything I don't want to cut? I know you're a little bit older than my juniors, time influence I teach sometimes, but just in case, we don't want dangerous influence flying. All right. So, well done. Now, let's look at the materials that we can download from the website. So, if we go to our exam website, we can download exam papers, and I'm sure you've all found those in the past. We can download examiner reports. Has anyone ever read the examiner report? They are really, really boring. I can't explain to you how boring an examiner's report is. However, they are full of the most important information that you will ever find. So, if we go to the next slide, basically, this is taken from the examiner's report for a business paper. And if we look at, and I don't know if you can, I'm not sure I even photocopy, I think you did photocopy. It basically says on here that centres must remind candidates that if the question states to 2 decimal places, then that's the expectation to gain full marks. So if you do a calculation and it says to 2 decimal places, and you don't put 2 decimal places in, you often won't even get the mark. During COVID, they were really good, they kind of gave you 1 mark, but now you don't get a single mark. So if you don't follow the instructions exactly, you will lose a mark, even if the calculation is basically right. On the next question down, basically what's happened here is they asked questions to show that they knew about partnerships within business. And the question basically said, describe the disadvantages of being in partnership. So, or describe one disadvantage of being full, it's like a fully developed part. So describe, analyse the and disadvantage of being a partnership business. And a lot of candidates listed 3 or 4 reasons. They didn't develop one answer. So if you give 3 reasons, you get 1 point. If you give 1 reason with a developed answer, you get 3 points. So it's not about the breadth of what you know, it's about how you use the knowledge the way the examiners ask. Now, as I say, examiners' reports are really boring, but they're really worth going through because you can pick all these little things up and you go, right, yes, I've got to remember that. So if you only read 1 for your favourite subject, read 1 examiner's report. It will really help you understand how to answer those questions and ensure you don't lose stupid marks. Maths, did you know on the exam paper it's got a line that says, do not write over this line. Why does it say that?
Because the printing is outside the printing area.
They cut it. When the exams go in, they get scanned and they get cut on that line. So if you've written anything over that line, it can't be seen by the examiner at all. So when it says do not write over this line, it's not just a suggestion, it's actually do not write over this line or it will not get read. And the number of people on maths papers who they run out of space, they write it over the line. No answer. If you do maths and it says show you're working out, how many points do you get for working out? Most of them. So 3-mark question, workings out, 2 marks for the working out, 1 mark is for the right answer. So please follow the instructions and don't lose 2 marks, difference between grade boundaries. Okay. So the success lies in thinking like an examiner. When you read a question, don't just automatically think, oh, it's about partnerships, and I'm going to throw everything I know about partnerships down. Read the question and say, what does the examiner want me to show? What does the person who's marking this question want me to show that I know? Because what they're testing you, we gave you this stuff to learn, did you learn it? So all they want to know is you learned the information that you were given. So if you pause and you think, what do they want me to show? The chances are you're not just going to verbally have vomit, for one's better word, onto that piece of paper. You're actually going to write something that's useful. And by useful, I mean gives you a mark towards your final exam grade. Okay. So now I know what I have to learn. What we need to do is we need to keep our revision interesting. Okay? And that means that not going into a room and putting your music on and lying on your bed with a book over your face, or sitting down for 3 hours going, I'm going to revise for 3 hours. It's not going to happen. Okay? The reality is, parents, if your children go to their rooms for 2 hours, they're not revising. They might think they're revising. How many of you have gone to revise and you've read a page of information in a textbook and you get to the end of the page and you actually have no idea what you've just read? I do it all the time. I literally, and I know it's because I'm not engaged. You know when you watch, kids, you might know this, in the evenings you come downstairs and mum has finished all her tasks and she's sat in front, mum, dad, probably more than mum actually, sat in front of the TV and you ask them a question and they totally ignore you because they haven't heard you. They're so engrossed in their TV, they're not aware of anything that's going on around them. Anyone else got parents like that? My kids have. I'm one of those. My kids will be going, Mum, Mum, and I'll be going, oh, sorry, did you want me? Because I'm not consciously learning. I've turned my brain off. I'm out for the night. Now, when you read a page, a whole page, and nothing's gone in, there's no point continuing. Okay? There is no point doing any more revision because nothing is going in. It has actually become a waste of time. So what we want to do is we want to keep our revision interesting. And that doesn't mean sitting at your desk for an hour at a time. That means 20 minutes, sharp, short revision, far more effective than sitting for an hour. It means standing up, walking around. It might mean going for a walk in the park. It might mean going for a swim with thinking about what you just learned. It might mean phoning a friend to discuss what you've learned. Okay, and I don't mean 3 hours on the phone, okay, I just mean like a 5-minute conversation. But it's not about sitting still for an hour at a time. To learn, to actively learn, we have to move around. Energy and movement is the way we keep our brains functioning. So just keep it in mind, you need to keep learning interesting. So the next part we're going to look at is, I know what to learn, but how do I actually learn? And I think quite often we go to school and we sit through school, but how do we know what we're learning? Now, what I always say to students, you know when you do your end of class tests and you're praying because you know that if you get 50%, you can have a pass mark. I've got 50%. I'm so delighted I've got 50%. But let's put that in a different way. If you went into the doctor and the doctor said to you, you're 50% well, would you come out feeling a little concerned? Okay. That's what your learning is all about. If you only know 50%, you only know half your content. So when you come to your actual end of term exams, your actual exam, your GCSE final, everything on it mark, those tests that you only got 50% on, you only knew half. So you scraped through it, mum didn't shout at you, you kind of went okay, teacher didn't shout at you, you didn't get a bad mark, you didn't get detention, but it was only 50%. So if I build a house and I put 50% of the foundation on the house, my house isn't going to stand up. So I've got 3 boys, none of whom were academic, and they used to crawl home with like 48% in their exams, and they were like, yay, we passed. And I'm looking at them going, I'm not going to go there now, but they have a lot of very shaky foundations and a lot of the things they've learned. So if you get 50%, if you get less than 90% in your tests, go back to that material over the weekend and re-look at it, because it's not going to help you. Everyone's keeping their heads down going, don't look at me. I'm looking at the wall. This is your opportunity to make sure you nail your GCSEs. Those 50%, you need to know the 50% you didn't know. Right, how to study. So there's 3 parts to studying: reading, studying, and learning. And reading is not the same as learning. How many of you have got a book by your beds or a Kindle by your beds that you may look at the end before you go to sleep? And probably, adults probably more than children, it's probably sat there for longer than it should have, not actually read. Over the years, we've used reading as a means to go to sleep, which, when we're actually studying, is not really very great, because we really need to be actively engaging with that information. So, 3-part process. Just be very aware that when you're reading, you've got to be consuming information, and you've got to be digesting information. And they're not the same, they need to be a perfect balance. So, what I take in, I need to digest, I need to be able to understand, I need to be able to work with it. Now, if we just go on to this, we generally believe that if we read more, we'll be able to use it, and the more information we've read, the more information we've got, the more information we're going to put on our paper, and the more marks we're going to get. So, is that true, that the more I read, the more information I take in, the more information I can actually use? Is that a true statement? No, absolutely not. Because I can read Encyclopedia Britannica, very boring, I'll probably skip a few times in between it. But if I can't use that information that I've read, if I can't actually apply that information, was there any point in actually reading it? No. It's got no point at all. So when we're reading through our class notes, if we're not digesting and we're able to use that information, there's no point having that information. There's no point us sitting there for hours reading things that don't make sense, that we can't use. So, the first part of anything we do when we read is or when we learn, is consumption. That's what we take in. You've all had breakfast, you've all consumed your food. Well, I want you to consume your learning. Okay, so I want you to consume your reading. But the second part is digestion. So you're all going to digest your breakfast. Now, if somebody had eaten 42 croissants, the chances are they won't digest it, they'll be sick. How useful was that to their system? It wasn't useful at all. They've wasted all that food, wasted all of that effort. So it's less about what we put into our brains, and it's more about how much stays in our brains. And that's the point of revision. How much information is staying in our brains? That's your 50% pass mark or your 48% mark you get in your test. How many times have you gone home and said to your mum, when you've got an exam mark, you've gone, but I learnt it all. I studied for 4 days. I learnt it all. If I had 5 dirhams every time a mum phoned in and said, but my daughter studied so hard, or my child studied so hard for this test, and they failed. Why have they failed if they studied so hard? Because they sat for hour on hour with books in front of them. They probably wrote out some chunks of information in notes, but how much of that information could they actually use? I'm not advocating don't revise, and I'm certainly not advocating less is more before you all sit there and throw that back at your parents. What I'm advocating is that everything you consume, you can digest. So everything you read, you can use. Okay? So how do we work that out? How do we work to the point that we can use that information now? Trying to remember everything we read is not the goal. So being better at reading and trying to remember more of what we read, that's not the goal. That's not what I'm asking you to do. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create a usable network of the knowledge that we get from what we read. And I'm going to show you how to do that now, hopefully. Okay, so first of all, at a junior level, you basically, when you were in junior school, you were sent away with a reading list, you learnt your 10 words, you came back, you wrote the 10 words down, and everyone went, well done, 10, here's a packet of sweets. Everyone was happy. Because it was easy, we had information, we remembered it, and we applied it. We had to understand it and have to apply it. We didn't have to do anything else with it. And that's the basic level. Now, what we get is a lot of students do really well at GCSE, and then they come to A level and they unravel because they're still in those first 3 stages. And GCSE is very much about being able to apply the information you've read. There is a bit of analysis, but basically in GCSE, they give you the analysis. It's not coming from internal. You don't have to come up with it. You don't have to create it. The exam board is telling you what the analysis would be. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to look at, while it's not possible to remember everything, it is possible to remember the things that can be used. So, what is important for exams is possible to remember. Everything, I'm going to keep saying this, everything you read must be digested, it must be usable. And it must balance. So what you take in must be what you're able to use. Right. And too much reading without digestion results in us being sick. Okay, so just think about that. If I overread, my brain will just forget everything. Okay, it just literally says, I can't remember. So it's like you've read that page of information and nothing has gone in. So to make our memory more effective, we've got to understand that not all information is equal. Some information is a lot of information that we will never use. So we don't need to remember it, we don't need to do anything with it. We need to do something with the important information. So how do we know what's important? We need to work it out. So some information is not as important as other information. It might take more learning, it might take more memory, but it's not as important. So there's a little model I've got called PACER that we're going to look at. And before we go on, what I just want you to remember is that wrong reading processes will make your remembering much harder, much more time consuming, and much less effective. I've got magic I'm going to show you at the end. Don't worry, guys. I have a magic formula. I'll show you at the end. But basically, we need to read in the right way. Now, when we read in the right way, what we're going to do is we're going to break this information down through this napkin pacer. So, the P, so it's 5 stages, okay? The P stands for procedural. If you all leave your emails, I promise I will send you through these files, so don't panic. I will email it all over to you so you have them. Not that anyone ever looked at it again, but if you want to look at it again, you can. So, procedural information is information that tells you how something should be done. So it could be something like coding, languages, it could be maths. How do we do something? When we read procedural information, so it's kind of how something happens. How do you, I don't know, how do you give an example? Question across my mind is not blank. Say, for instance, you're a doctor. How do you take blood pressure? Okay, so procedural. How do we do something? Now,